Owning your story begins with the courage to look at yourself honestly, to examine the chapters of your life with both tenderness and unflinching clarity, to face the moments that have shaped you in ways that were both beautiful and painful, to see the times you stumbled and fell, the times you doubted your worth, the moments when fear, shame, or insecurity seemed to hold you captive, and to recognize that all of these experiences are not marks of weakness, but evidence of a life fully lived and a heart fully engaged. It means acknowledging the mistakes you made without letting them define your present or your future, understanding that failure is not a permanent state, but a teacher whispering lessons you may not have been ready to hear until now, and allowing yourself the grace to feel the pain of loss, disappointment, or rejection, while also seeing the resilience that has quietly grown within you through these very trials, because every time you confronted a difficult truth, faced an uncomfortable reality, or chose to keep moving when it would have been easier to give up, you were building strength, integrity, and depth of character that no external approval could grant. Owning your story also requires naming the moments when you turned away from fear, when you chose honesty over convenience, when you spoke your truth even though your voice trembled, and when you admitted vulnerability even when you feared judgment, because these acts of courage, though seemingly small in the moment, are the threads that weave the fabric of a life lived with authenticity and purpose, and they remind you that you are not the sum of your mistakes, but the sum of your choices to rise, to try, and to keep going even when the path was unclear. It asks you to confront the parts of yourself you may have hidden, the doubts you have buried beneath layers of self-protection, the shame that whispers you are not enough, and the fears that have tried to convince you that your voice does not matter, and to see them for what they are. Signals of humanity, reminders that growth is messy, and invitations to practice self-compassion as fiercely as you have demanded achievement or perfection from yourself. Because embracing your story is not about creating a narrative of endless triumphs, but about accepting the fullness of your journey, both the shadows and the light, without diminishing either, understanding that your history, with all its twists, failures, and detours, has prepared you to stand fully in the present moment with a clarity and strength that could never have been forged without those experiences. It also involves celebrating the ways you have persevered, recognizing the moments when you chose love, integrity, or courage even when it cost you comfort or certainty, acknowledging the resilience that has carried you through heartbreak, loss, or disappointment, and understanding that this resilience is not something to hide or downplay, but a powerful testament to your capacity to endure and to grow, because by embracing your story, you claim the authority to define your own life, to decide that your worth is not contingent upon success or recognition, but is inherent and unwavering, and to live in a way that honors both the person you have been and the person you are becoming. Owning your story does not mean you must relive every painful memory or dwell on regrets, but it does require that you do not run from them, that you do not minimize your experiences or allow them to be erased, because each struggle, each failure, and each doubt contains within it the seeds of insight, empathy, and wisdom that can guide your steps forward, shaping not only how you see yourself, but also how you engage with the world around you, allowing you to act from a place of authenticity rather than fear, and to lead, create, or love without hesitation, because when you fully own your story, you free yourself from the weight of denial and self-judgment, and you step into a life where every chapter, every scar, every triumph and defeat is honored as a vital part of your identity, and you realize that the very things you once thought might hold you back are the very things that equip you to move forward with courage, grace, and an unshakable belief in your own capacity to thrive. Vulnerability is power, not because it guarantees comfort or success, but because it dares us to step into life fully, to enter moments without armor, without pretense, and without the safety net of certainty, recognizing that true courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act in spite of it, to show up even when the outcome is unknown, to speak even when your voice might shake, and to risk rejection, judgment, or failure in the pursuit of what matters most to you. Because when you hide your true self, you may protect yourself from pain, but you also forfeit the possibility of connection, growth, and meaningful impact, and the paradox of power in vulnerability is that it is precisely when we allow ourselves to be seen, flaws, doubts, and all, that we gain the strength to shape our lives in ways that are authentic and deeply resonant, understanding that exposing your heart or admitting uncertainty does not diminish your value, but instead affirms your humanity and your willingness to engage fully with the world. And this engagement is where real influence, creativity, and resilience are born, because hiding behind perfection or invulnerability may shield you from immediate discomfort, but it also limits your capacity to learn from mistakes, to adapt, and to experience the richness of life in its unfiltered form. And stepping into your time, claiming your space, and daring to be seen requires a recognition that the risk of failure or embarrassment is a necessary companion to meaningful achievement, and that courage is not a constant state, but a muscle strengthened each time you allow yourself to be open, honest, and present, even when you feel exposed, uncertain, or insufficient. Because each moment of vulnerability is a declaration that your life matters, that your perspective matters, and that your contribution is worthy of being witnessed. And the power of vulnerability also lies in its capacity to build trust, empathy, and connection. Because when you show the raw, unpolished aspects of yourself, you invite others to do the same, creating spaces where authenticity thrives and relationships deepen in ways that superficial bravado or controlled appearances never could. And embracing vulnerability means letting go of the illusion that control or predictability can protect you, understanding that life is inherently unpredictable, that setbacks, disappointments, and misunderstandings will occur, and that no amount of pretense or armor can prevent them, but the choice to face these uncertainties with openness transforms fear into fuel, anxiety into insight, and hesitation into action, because daring to be seen is not only about expressing strengths or successes, but about acknowledging wounds, insecurities, and moments of doubt without shame. And in doing so, you cultivate resilience, self-compassion, and a clarity of purpose that only comes from embracing all facets of your human experience, recognizing that courage and vulnerability are inseparable, that to shrink from one is to deny the other, and that every time you step forward despite discomfort, risk, or fear, you expand the boundaries of what is possible for yourself. And this expansion is not just personal, but also relational, because vulnerability radiates outward, inspiring and empowering those around you to embrace their own courage and authenticity. And it is in this shared human experience that the deepest growth, learning, and transformation occur, because life's richness is never found in perfection, certainty, or control, but in the messy, uncertain, unpredictable moments when you dare to show up fully, when you speak your truth, when you allow your heart to be seen even if it trembles, when you accept that you may fail, be misunderstood, or be challenged, and when you recognize that these risks are not signs of weakness but the very essence of strength. And understanding this allows you to step boldly into your time, to claim your voice, your presence, and your worth, to engage fully with life without guarantees, and to trust that even in moments of uncertainty, discomfort, or exposure, you are equipped with the courage, resilience, and authenticity necessary to navigate the path ahead. And the more you practice showing up in this way, the more natural it becomes to act with integrity, speak with honesty, and embrace life with wholeheartedness, because vulnerability is not a liability, but a conduit for courage, connection, and true power. And in recognizing this, you unlock the capacity to live with intention, to lead with empathy, and to create impact that is both lasting and deeply meaningful. Because power that comes from hiding, controlling, or pretending is fragile, while power that comes from embracing uncertainty, being seen, and daring to live authentically is unshakable. Breaking the comparison trap begins with the recognition that every person's journey is singular, that the timing of your life, your growth, your successes, and your lessons cannot and should not be measured against the milestones, achievements, or trajectories of anyone else, because doing so diminishes your own experience, steals your sense of worth, and obscures the unique gifts and opportunities that belong only to you, and the pressure to match someone else's path, whether it be their speed, their accomplishments, or the recognition they receive, creates a false standard that is not only unfair but also unproductive, because life is not a race to be won but a deeply personal unfolding that requires patience, attention, and trust in your own rhythm. And understanding this begins with quieting the inner voice that constantly measures, compares, or judges, the voice that asks why you are not there yet, why someone else seems to be ahead, or why your path looks different from the one you imagined, because these questions, while common, are distractions that lead to frustration, self-doubt, and anxiety, and instead, breaking the comparison trap requires turning inward, focusing on your own growth, your own values, and your own definition of success, and recognizing that even when others achieve milestones earlier, faster, or more visibly, it does not diminish the validity, significance, or timing of your own journey, because your life has its own pace, its own lessons, and its own opportunities that cannot be replicated or rushed. And when you release the pressure to conform to another person's timeline, you open yourself to a profound sense of freedom, creativity, and self-respect, understanding that growth, achievement, and fulfillment are not linear or universal, but deeply personal and contextually unique, shaped by your experiences, your choices, and the challenges you have faced along the way. And this freedom allows you to celebrate your own progress, no matter how small or slow it may seem compared to others, because every step you take, every lesson you learn, and every boundary you honor contributes to your development in ways that cannot be measured against someone else's path. And breaking the comparison trap also involves embracing patience with yourself, acknowledging that just because someone else is ahead in one area does not mean you are behind in all areas, and that timing is not a measure of value, competence, or worth, because your path is unfolding exactly as it should, and the struggles, detours, and pauses are as essential to your story as any achievement or recognition, and understanding this allows you to focus not on imitation or envy, but on authenticity, on choosing actions and decisions that resonate with your own purpose, values, and vision, and to trust that the work, effort, and heart you invest today will bear fruit in alignment with your own life's rhythm rather than someone else's. And comparison trap often keeps people in a perpetual state of tension, dissatisfaction, and self-criticism, but by letting go of the need to measure yourself against others, you reclaim energy, focus, and clarity for the pursuits that genuinely matter to you, and in this reclaimed space, you discover that life is richer, more fulfilling, and more meaningful when approached on your own terms. And that fulfillment comes not from keeping pace with others, but from walking your own path with courage, integrity, and presence. And every moment spent running someone else's race is a moment diverted from embracing your own possibilities, exploring your own creativity, and honoring your own growth. And when you commit to releasing comparison, you cultivate gratitude for what you have accomplished, curiosity about what lies ahead, and confidence in your ability to navigate challenges without imitation or distraction, because true progress is measured not by benchmarks set by others, but by your willingness to learn, adapt, and move forward in ways that align with your authentic self. And this shift in perspective transforms life from a constant competition into a personal journey of self-discovery, resilience, and purpose, where you can embrace your timing, your rhythm, and your unique trajectory with pride, knowing that the only path you are meant to walk is the one that belongs to you. And in fully embracing this truth, you find a freedom, a peace, and a sense of fulfillment that comparison can never provide, because when your focus is on your journey rather than someone else's, you reclaim your power, your voice, and your ability to thrive authentically. Choosing courage over comfort begins with the recognition that growth, transformation, and meaningful change rarely, if ever, emerge from places of safety, ease, or familiarity, because the safe zone, while seemingly secure, is often a place of stagnation where dreams, potential, and authenticity are quietly stifled. And saying "it's my time" is not a declaration of entitlement, but a commitment to step into the spaces that challenge you, stretch you, and invite you to confront your fears, insecurities, and limitations head on, understanding that discomfort is not an enemy, but a necessary companion in the pursuit of a fully lived life. Because every significant achievement, every moment of personal evolution, and every breakthrough begins with the willingness to move into uncertainty, to risk failure, and to engage with situations that may feel unfamiliar, intimidating, or overwhelming, and choosing courage over comfort requires a deep trust in your own capacity to navigate challenges, to learn from mistakes, and to persevere even when the path forward is unclear, because comfort may offer immediate relief, but courage builds resilience, confidence, and self-trust, teaching you that the most rewarding aspects of life are rarely found in ease, but in the moments when you dare to act despite fear, to speak despite doubt, and to move despite uncertainty. And embracing this principle also means recognizing that the discomfort you encounter is a sign of progress, that the resistance, tension, or anxiety you feel is evidence that you are stretching beyond old patterns, stepping into your potential, and claiming spaces that were previously unavailable to you. And this choice to prioritize courage does not mean recklessness or ignoring wisdom, but rather a deliberate commitment to act in alignment with your values, purpose, and vision, even when doing so requires facing risks, embracing challenges, and relinquishing the illusion of control, because life does not hand growth, opportunity, or fulfillment to those who wait in the comfort zone, and the only way to access the experiences that shape strength, character, and authenticity is to willingly step into situations that test you, expand you, and refine you. And saying "it's my time" is a declaration that you will not wait for perfect conditions, that you will not allow fear to dictate your choices, and that you recognize the only way to claim your life fully is to act, to take risks, and to move boldly in the direction of your calling, even when it feels uncomfortable or uncertain. And choosing courage over comfort also means accepting vulnerability as part of the process, understanding that stepping into discomfort often exposes you to scrutiny, criticism, or failure, and yet it is precisely through this exposure that you cultivate resilience, empathy, and insight, because avoiding discomfort may protect you temporarily, but it also limits your capacity to discover what you are truly capable of, to deepen your understanding of yourself, and to engage fully with the richness of life. And this commitment to courageous action requires daily practice, a conscious choice to resist the lure of ease and to embrace the unfamiliar, the challenging, and the demanding, understanding that courage is not a one-time event, but a muscle strengthened through repetition, reflection, and perseverance. And every moment you choose action over passivity, risk over certainty, or growth over comfort, you expand the boundaries of your potential, reinforce your sense of self-efficacy, and move closer to living a life that is aligned with your deepest aspirations, because the safe zone may feel protective, but it also keeps you from experiencing the fullness of possibility, the depth of connection, and the satisfaction of achievement that comes from daring to step into the unknown. And by choosing courage, you not only claim your time and your space, but also inspire others to recognize that their comfort zones are not the limit of their lives, that the growth they seek lies on the other side of fear, and that the richness of experience, learning, and fulfillment comes to those who are willing to move boldly, embrace uncertainty, and act with integrity and intention, because courage is the bridge between where you are and where you are meant to be, and every bold step taken into discomfort is a declaration that your life, your purpose, and your potential matter, and that you are willing to rise to the challenge of claiming them fully. Resilience through setbacks begins with the understanding that life is rarely a straight path, that challenges, disappointments, and unexpected obstacles are not interruptions to your progress, but integral parts of the journey that test your character, sharpen your focus, and reveal your capacity to endure, because every no Every closed door, every failure, and every unforeseen difficulty carries within it the opportunity for growth, learning, and refinement, and embracing resilience means seeing these moments not as evidence of inadequacy or defeat, but as invitations to rise, recalibrate, and continue forward with intention, recognizing that setbacks are neither permanent nor personal, but temporary conditions that demand reflection, adaptation, and courage. And it is through the practice of resilience that you cultivate the strength to face adversity without surrendering to fear, despair, or self-doubt. Because the essence of resilience lies not in avoiding pain or disappointment, but in the conscious choice to confront them with a mindset rooted in possibility and determination. And every time you encounter resistance, rejection, or a detour, you are presented with a chance to learn more about your own limits, values, and priorities, and to develop strategies that are informed by experience rather than theory, which equips you to navigate future challenges with greater wisdom, confidence, and clarity. And resilience is also about emotional agility, the ability to process disappointment, accept reality, and still maintain hope and direction, understanding that setbacks are often temporary disruptions rather than permanent states, and that by holding steady, adapting, and choosing deliberate action, you transform obstacles into stepping stones, refining your skills, perspective, and approach along the way. And embracing this mindset means recognizing that progress is rarely linear, that growth is rarely smooth, and that the journey toward your goals will inevitably include periods of struggle, confusion, and delay. And yet, these periods are essential because they demand reflection, foster patience, and deepen your appreciation for achievement, because the victories that follow adversity carry a resonance, satisfaction, and meaning that success without struggle cannot replicate. And cultivating resilience also requires self-compassion, the understanding that missteps, failures, and setbacks do not diminish your worth or potential, and that responding with kindness to yourself in difficult times strengthens your ability to persist rather than retreat. Because resilience is nurtured through the delicate balance of accountability and acceptance, learning from mistakes while refusing to be defined or limited by them, and it is built by rising after each fall, by examining what went wrong without judgment, recalibrating your approach, and continuing forward with intention, focus, and renewed energy, because the pattern of rise, recalibrate, and move forward is a practice that trains both mind and heart to remain steady under pressure, to recover from disappointment, and to maintain direction even when circumstances are unpredictable or unfavorable. And this persistence is not blind stubbornness, but a conscious choice to honor your vision, to value your efforts, and to refuse to let temporary setbacks dictate the trajectory of your life, because resilience is ultimately a statement of agency, the acknowledgement that while you cannot control every event or outcome, you can control your response, your attitude, and your commitment to moving forward with purpose. And every challenge you face, every no you encounter, every obstacle that seems insurmountable is an opportunity to practice this agency, to strengthen your resolve, and to deepen your trust in your own capacity to overcome. And over time, this practice builds an inner fortitude that becomes unshakable because the more you rise, recalibrate, and continue forward, the more you internalize the lesson that setbacks are temporary, growth is ongoing, and your ability to endure, adapt, and persist is a power that no external circumstance can diminish. And resilience transforms not only the way you navigate challenges, but also the way you perceive yourself, instilling confidence, self-awareness, and a sense of purpose that enables you to move forward with intention, clarity, and courage. Because every challenge is part of the process, every no is an invitation to refine your strategy, and every moment of perseverance is a testament to the strength, adaptability, and unwavering determination that defines the journey of a life fully engaged, fully committed, and fully alive. Claiming your voice and presence begins with the recognition that your perspective, your ideas, your experiences, and your contributions matter, and that the world cannot benefit from them unless you are willing to speak up, take space and fully inhabit your own life, because too often people shrink themselves to fit expectations, avoid conflict, or hide behind the fear of judgment. Yet every time you silence yourself, step back, or minimize your worth, you deny not only your own potential, but also the possibility for impact, growth, and connection that exists when you step fully into who you are. And claiming your voice requires a conscious decision to prioritize authenticity over approval, understanding over conformity, and courage over comfort, because it is in the act of expressing your truth, even when your words tremble or your presence feels exposed, that you assert both your value and your agency. And this assertion is not about domination or arrogance, but about participation and presence, about acknowledging that you have a rightful place in conversations, decisions, and spaces that matter to you, and that claiming this space is essential not only for your own growth, but for the enrichment of those around you, because ideas, inspiration, and innovation thrive when people bring their full selves to the table, unfiltered, unmuted, and unapologetic. And to claim your voice and presence is to reject the lies of inadequacy or unworthiness that may have been internalized through years of comparison, doubt, or silence, recognizing that the world is ready for what you have to offer, but it cannot receive it if you remain hidden, hesitant, or deferential. And this act of claiming your space is both an inward and outward practice, requiring awareness of your own strengths, values, and needs, as well as the courage to assert them in interactions, relationships, and environments that may feel intimidating or unfamiliar. And it also involves setting boundaries, standing firm in your convictions, and refusing to allow others' discomfort, opinions, or limitations to dictate whether you take up space or speak your truth. Because when you claim your presence, you model for others the legitimacy of their own voices, the importance of participation, and the necessity of owning one's worth. And doing so cultivates confidence, clarity, and impact, because your voice carries weight not only in the literal words you speak, but in the way you inhabit the world, the energy you bring to interactions, and the integrity with which you pursue your intentions. And the more consistently you practice stepping fully into your own presence, the more natural it becomes to trust your instincts, express your ideas, and assert your value without apology or hesitation. And this practice also requires embracing vulnerability, because claiming your voice often exposes you to disagreement, criticism, or challenge. And yet, it is precisely this willingness to risk discomfort that amplifies the power, authenticity, and reach of your presence, because courage is inseparable from presence, and authenticity cannot exist in silence. And claiming your voice is a form of service, not only to yourself but to the world, because every idea, insight, and contribution that remains unspoken diminishes the richness of collective human experience, while every word spoken, every space claimed, and every action taken in alignment with your worth has the potential to inspire, transform, and connect. And understanding this empowers you to move forward with intention, self-respect, and determination, knowing that your presence matters, your contribution is needed, and your voice is essential. And it is not a matter of waiting for permission, recognition, or validation from others, but of recognizing that you have already been granted most important permission, the permission to be seen, to speak, and to engage fully with the world. And when you embrace this permission, you step boldly into a life where your choices, actions, and ideas carry meaning, influence, and resonance, because claiming your voice and presence is ultimately an act of self-respect, empowerment, and courage. And the more you practice it, the more you reinforce the truth that your worth is inherent. Your contribution is valuable, and your engagement with the world is not optional but necessary. And by fully stepping into your time, your space, and your life, you create a ripple effect of authenticity, impact, and inspiration, ensuring that the world is not only ready for your contribution, but that it receives it with the depth, clarity, and integrity only you can offer. And in this way, claiming your voice and presence becomes both a personal act of empowerment, and a meaningful contribution to the larger fabric of human connection, creativity, and progress.